Once upon a time, long ago, there lived an old man and a wicked old woman. They had two daughters. The old man's daughter, Nastyenka, was hard-working and beautiful, but the wicked old woman's daughter, Marfushka, was lazy and ugly. Nastyenka was badly treated by her stepmother, who only had eyes for her own daughter. One day in the forest, Nastyenka met a young, vain show-off called Ivan. Ivan fell head over heels in love with her. But when the handsome youth tried to kill a mother bear just for the fun of it, before Nastyenka's eyes, a wizard turned Ivan himself into a bear. "Only when you have done a good deed," the wizard said, "will you get your human form back." The young man immediately set off on a dangerous search for salvation. Time passed, autumn came and went, winter too. The wicked stepmother threw Nastyenka out of the house because all the suitors wanted her hand and not that of the ugly Marfushka. The old man had to leave his daughter alone in the deep snow of the forest. Nastyenka sat under a fir tree, lonely and abandoned. It wasn't long, though, before she heard the sound of twigs snapping. Then a voice that said, "Are you cold, my child?" Nastyenka recognized the voice as that of Jack Frost and answered, "No, Mr. Frost, I'm not cold." But Jack Frost asked again and again and drew closer to the poor girl. Each time Nastyenka said she was warm, but in truth she was nearly frozen solid. So Jack Frost wrapped her in his splendid coat and took her to his winter palace in the forest. And where was Ivan all this time? First of all, he had done a really good deed. He'd helped an old woman to carry firewood. As a result, he was transformed back into human form. And indeed, he was even more handsome than before. Ivan went looking for Nastyenka. Suddenly, in the enchanted forest, he came across a strange-looking house. It stood on chickens' legs. Little hut, Ivan shouted. "Stand still, if you will. Turn your back to the wood, on your door to where I am stood." Slowly, the hut turned with its door towards Ivan. The door opened, and an old woman came out. It was Baba Yaga the witch. She gave Ivan an evil look and said, "Come in, Ivan. I'll make you a tasty evening meal." Inside the hut, she ordered Ivan to climb into the oven. "But I don't know how, Baba Yaga," he said. "I've never done anything like that before."
"Oh, you really are useless," the old witch cursed. "I'll show you how."
When Baba Yaga was sitting on the edge of the oven, Ivan pushed her into the hot coals and slammed the oven door shut.
"Help, I'm burning," the old witch screamed. "I'll do anything you want, but please let me out."
Ivan opened the door. When Baba Yaga had recovered, he asked her if she knew where Nastyenka was. Reluctantly, the witch had to keep her promise and gave Ivan a magic sledge which could travel on its own. Ivan thanked the old woman and set off. A little later, in the middle of the forest, Ivan came across a splendid palace covered by a sparkling blanket of snow. Without a moment's thought, he went in. The sight that greeted him was very sad. In the middle of the large room lay a coffin made of ice. Weeping in front of it was Jack Frost, and lying in the coffin was Nastyenka. Jack Frost told Ivan a heart-rending tale. One day he was taking his morning stroll through the forest, but he'd left his magic walking stick behind in the palace. With the stick he could clad all the trees in the forest in a winter mantle. But if they touched the stick, every living creature froze solid. In a huff, the old witch, Baba Yaga, had sent a black cat after Ivan. It was faster than the young man. The cat crept into the palace and led Nastyenka to the magic walking stick. She touched it and at once fell to the ground as if she were dead. Ivan bent to kiss the girl goodbye. Suddenly Nastenka awoke, looked at Ivan in amazement and asked him, "How long have I been asleep?" "Too long," Ivan said. Then straight away he asked the girl if she would marry him. "Yes," she replied. Jack Frost lavished present after present on the young couple. He gave them magnificent clothes and a beautiful sledge. When 3 white horses and the sledge pulled up outside the old woman's hut, and the stepmother saw all the girl's riches, she wanted her own daughter to go into the forest at once and spend the night there. She hoped, of course, that the ugly Marfushka would also receive lots of gifts. So there was Marfushka sitting under the fir tree, warmly wrapped up in a thick fur coat. After a while she heard the sound of twigs snapping, and then a voice that said, "Are you cold, dear child?" Rudely the girl replied,
What do you think, you old goat? Can't you see that I'm nearly frozen stiff? Where are the clothes and the jewellery? I want them. Out with them.
Thereupon Jack Frost decided to give Marfushka something too. The next day, a sledge pulled by 3 grunting pigs stopped outside the old man's hut, and his wicked wife saw her daughter sitting in it. The only present she had with her was a sack of pitch. Nastenka and Ivan's wedding lasted 3 days. What a feast it was! The two were so much in love, and they lived happily ever after.